The U.S. military says it has launched a new strike on an alleged drug boat, this time in the Pacific, killing 4 people. It comes as we're getting new details about the earlier controversial double trap strike in the Caribbean that some lawmakers have called a potential war crime. And our reporting contradicts the version of the story defense officials have been telling for months. CNN has learned that Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, who oversaw that follow-up strike in September, told lawmakers during classified briefings yesterday that the survivors did not radio for backup, as some defense officials have maintained before they were killed in that second strike. Sources say Bradley and other military officials debated what to do for 41 minutes. And in the end, we're told Bradley said he ordered the second strike because part of the boat was still afloat with cocaine, and the survivors could have, in theory, made it to safety to continue their operations. Lawmakers who saw the unreleased video of that strike emerged from those briefings split along party lines. In just a moment, we'll be speaking to one of the top Republicans who was in the room, but our top Democrat saying the video is unambiguous and shows the boat was completely disabled. Listen.
It's very, very clear in this video, which, by the way, should be made public. You had 2 shipwrecked people on the top of the tiny little bit of the boat that was left, that was capsized, the bow. They weren't signaling to anybody. And the idea that these 2 were going to be able to return to the fight, even if you accept all of the questionable legal premises around this mission, around these strikes, it's still very hard to imagine how these 2 were returning to any sort of fight in that condition.
The White House and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth maintains the double tech strike was lawful and necessary. John?
All right, with us now is Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas. He is chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, also sits on Armed Services. You were in the middle of many of these briefings yesterday, Senator, so it's great to get your insight here. The reporting this morning is that these drug runners did not appear to have a radio at the time they were killed, and Admiral Bradley said they were not in a position to call for help at the time. So what threat did they pose?
Well, John, the threat they pose is the threat that the boat that was destroyed yesterday posed and that all these other boats posed. They're running drugs in high volumes into the United States that have killed hundreds of Arkansans in recent years and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Americans. It's not exactly what Admiral Bradley said. He said that they didn't have any intercepts of these 2 drug traffickers trying to radio or call for assistance. That doesn't mean they weren't doing so. It doesn't mean they weren't trying to access communications equipment on the boat, or that they didn't have any of their drug trafficking pals trying to come pick them up because they were just off the waters or just off the coast of Venezuela, and that's a known area for drug cartels.
Did you see any evidence of them trying to use a radio in the video you saw?
Well, I saw lots of evidence of them standing on the boat that had been capsized.
That wasn't my question. Did you see any evidence of them
trying to get it back up, trying to flip it over?
Did you see any evidence of them trying to use a radio?
No, I didn't, John. No, John, but they were clearly not incapacitated. They were not distressed. One guy took his T-shirt off like he was sunbathing. They were trying to get the boat back up and to continue their mission of spreading these drugs all across America.
Did they get the boat back up?
That's what they were doing, and that's why Admiral Bradley ordered the second strike. Well, no, they didn't, because we killed them, and we were right to kill them, and Admiral Bradley was totally justified in a decision he made. A decision, by the way, that was broadcast on multiple secure screens at the Pentagon in Fort Bragg, and that hundreds of people watched in real time with probably dozens of JAG lawyers. So what the Washington Post said last week was a complete lie. They owe an apology to Pete Hegseth, and especially they owe an apology to Admiral Mitch Bradley. He is a highly decorated career Navy SEAL.
Well, the Washington Post reported there was a second strike, which at first the administration seemed to deny. Let me ask you this specific question. Would it be legal for police in Arkansas to kill suspected drug dealers on a boat in an overturned lake?
Well, John, let me go back to the premise of your question. The Washington Post reported that Pete Hegseth had given an unlawful order of no quarter or no one left alive or kill them all. Pete Hegseth denied that last week, and it didn't deny that there was a second strike. Mitch Bradley and Dan Kane both flatly denied that yesterday as well, which some of the Democrats who watched that video and got those briefings confirmed. So that was what the Washington Post reported. That is a total and complete lie. I just respectfully disagree with my Democratic friends here. I think the problem they have is not with the second strike, it's with the first strike and every other strike on these boats. They think the entire operation is not well founded. I just disagree with them. I think the analogy I would draw is not Arkansas police officers dealing with American citizens. If those boats were loaded with bombs or missiles headed for the United States, I don't think anyone would dispute that we had every right and indeed a duty to intercept them. But those drugs detonate like a bomb all across Arkansas and all across America, killing hundreds of Arkansans and hundreds of thousands of Americans. Our government has a duty to protect our communities from those drugs.
Senator,
that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Can I just take this in pieces? And we first answer my question, would it be legal for police in Arkansas to kill suspected drug dealers in an overturned boat in a lake in Arkansas? Just answer that, and then I will address your question on the other thing.
John, the premise of your question is not well founded. Criminals in Arkansas are not foreign nationals who are affiliates of a foreign terrorist designated organization.
The answer is no, it would not be legal.
It's like saying
hang on, Senator. The answer is no, it would not be legal to kill them in a lake. But let me ask a follow-up question. If they are terrorists, when did Congress pass the authorized use of force to attack them?
John, the reason why your question is not well founded is like saying, would Barack Obama be okay droning an American citizen when he was president like he did to Anwar al-Awlaki over in the Middle East? These are totally different categories.
Senator, that's why I asked when Congress passed the authorized use of military force. There was an authorized use of military force against terrorists. I'm not saying what he did was legal or not, but that's what they based it on. In this case, when was the authorized use of military force to attack suspected drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela?
John, the president has inherent authority as the commander-in-chief under the Constitution to protect America using our armed forces against a foreign terrorist organization. Congress has passed laws that allows the president to designate foreign terrorist organizations. That's what he's done with these cartels in Venezuela, who are deeply intertwined with the illegitimate Maduro regime. The president is
they call them non-state actors. I will say the latest explanation, excuse me, Senator, the latest explanation from the administration is they are non-state actors in this case. That is important for them to designate. They are non-state actors here. They are not, for purposes of attacking them off the coast of Venezuela, connected to the Maduro regime. They're non-state actors there. And Andrew McCarthy and other conservative writers will say that they don't qualify by the statutory definition of what a terrorist is in U.S. code.
Well, John, I disagree that all of these cartels in Latin America do qualify as foreign terrorists. And frankly, their activities have killed many more Americans than Al-Qaeda or ISIS has killed. And it's a threat that we should take seriously in our own backyard, just as seriously as we take the threat of Al-Qaeda and ISIS around the world. I think most Americans, especially those Arkansans who have lost loved ones to drugs, would agree that we need to take this threat seriously.
Then when will you vote on an authorized use of military force if it's as big of a threat as foreign terrorists?
John, I think the president has every legal authority he needs as the commander-in-chief. If my Democratic colleagues disagree, then they're perfectly entitled to offer an amendment when we start debating the defense spending bill to prohibit him from doing so. Congress has done that throughout our history. But until they get the votes for that, the president has the authority that he needs to protect our country from these drug traffickers.
Quickly, there was an Inspector General report on so-called Signalgate yesterday, which found that Secretary Hexeth created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots. That has to do with the attack last March in Yemen. You are chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. You are an incredibly careful and meticulous senator here. Do you send sensitive information over Signal?
Well, John, I read the Signal report from the IG. I read the classified version as well. I think this is a mountain out of a molehill. By the time much of this conversation was happening on Signal with senior administration officials, they were already calling their foreign counterparts, foreign ministers, defense ministers, national security advisors around the world. They were doing that on unsecure lines. I don't see the risk here. I understand the administration needs the ability to coordinate action outside of secure information facilities, and I simply think it's a mountain out of a molehill, John.
Do you signal to transmit sensitive information like this?
John, I think I'll refrain from telling the bad guys which apps or communication devices I use.
All right. Okay. But Senator, you do know that the Inspector General did find that sensitive information was transmitted that could put troops at risk, correct?
No, I read the report, John. I just disagree with some of its findings, and I think it blows it all out of proportion. And frankly, Inspector General reports across the government often do just that.
All right, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.